Hello,
Okay,
everyone. Good morning.
good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today. Today's going to be an update from Southern Cross University, focusing on the Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth campuses. So, my name's Adam Roberts, if you haven't met me before, and I'm joined by my colleague John Crowder, who's also based down here in Melbourne. So, just a reminder, if you do have any questions, we're very happy to answer them. Please just drop your question in the chat and we'll get to that after the presentation today. What we're going to cover today is some updates on the genuine student requirements for Southern Cross, Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. I'm going to give an update on what's happening with CAPS in Australia, and also scholarships and some important dates coming up there as well. So just to kick things off, everyone will have heard that the Australian government is planning to introduce caps on student numbers for next year. They're planning to introduce them starting from the 1st of January, but that is all dependent on the legislation being passed by Parliament in Australia. And a lot of you would know that there are inquiries going on. There's a lot of questions about how the caps have been designed. But one thing they have done is they've released a whole lot of acronyms that we're all starting to learn at the moment. If you can see on the screen there, they now have a national planning level, which caps the number of international students that can start studying in Australia in 1 year. For each institution, they've already been given an international student profile. Now that data is out there publicly. Anyone can look up online what every university's profile is. The private providers haven't been released publicly, but there's a lot of rumors out there in the market about them again. So in terms of what is happening with Southern Cross University, now we're a regional university. As you can see on the slide here, overall, the regional universities have been given quite a large growth on 2023 numbers. So what that means for next year, for 2025, is that Southern Cross will still be recruiting every single student we can in order to hit our cap for 2025. So some institutions will have to limit their enrollments. Other ones will have to grow. At the moment, Southern Cross is going to be needing to fill our cap. And so we're going to be out there recruiting and admitting as many students as we can at the moment. Now, as part of this, the government has said that they're planning to remove the Ministerial Direction 107, but that has not been confirmed at this point. So we are continuing with the same genuine student requirements that we use, the same process of interviewing students, and we will be recruiting aggressively to fill our cap for 2025, which is good news for us. The news for some of our colleagues in private institutions and vet providers, it hasn't been as good. So our condolences go out to them. So a couple of updates for 2025 for Southern Cross University. So the first one there, our Master of IT, which used to be our most popular program, has been relaunched as the Master of Computing. We've chosen the two most popular specializations, which are cybersecurity and software development. They're both options for students. The other change that's happened is they're now allowing graduates from other disciplines to apply. So in the past, the Master of IT would only take IT and computing graduates. For 2025, the Master of Computing is able to take graduates of other courses, which is great news. The other thing new for 2025, a lot of you will know that we launched the Graduate Diploma of Early Childhood Education this year. At the moment, that is probably the most popular course for students already in Australia. It's a 1-year course and it prepares students to work in early childhood education. There is a very large skill shortage in that area. So the graduate education has been launched this year. It immediately became our most popular program. It's suitable for students already within Australia. Now, from term 1 next year, we'll be introducing the Master of Teaching. This course is more suitable for students coming from offshore who need to study 2 years in Australia. The first intake is going to be February next year. And if you have a look at the tuition fees on the right-hand side, you'll see that both of those programs have very affordable tuition fees in comparison to the rest of the courses across Southern Cross. So the way these courses work, the Grad Dip is a 1-year program. Master of Teaching is a 2-year program. The Grad Dip makes up the first year of the 2-year Master of Teaching. It's exactly the same course. They both include in the first year 60 days or 480 hours of practical placement. Now, the university organises that placement for students. They've got a very professional placement unit. Every single student that needs it is placed, but the students have to make sure that they've met all of the requirements to be placed. They have to fill in some forms. They have to get a working with children check. So if you have students enrolling in either of these programs, please make sure that they're prepared with everything they need so their placement can go ahead. Now, some of our agents have told us that these courses are hard to find. If you have any trouble finding these courses on StudyLink, please just contact your regional manager and they'll help point you in the right direction. For the Grad Dip, we have the upcoming intake for that T5 in October. There are still places available. So if you have onshore students, get your application in as soon as possible for T5. All right, we have some very good news with scholarships. So first of all, Southern Cross has made the decision to not increase the tuition fees of our courses going from 2024 to 2025. So if you look at the bachelor programs, the master's programs, firstly, all of the tuition fees have been held at the same level. But on top of that, we've introduced new scholarships. So every student that is offered a place for 2025 in any course, except for the Grad Dip, will automatically get an $8,000 fee reduction in the first year. If they're going into a Graduate Diploma of Education, they automatically get a $6,000 fee reduction. So you don't need to fill in any forms. There's no extra paperwork. The admissions team will assess it. If they give an offer, they'll automatically get those scholarships. So $8,000 for everything except Grad Dip, $6,000 for the Grad Dip. Now, after they finish their first year, the student can earn scholarships up to $8,000 for each year of study, but it depends on their GPA. If they can achieve a 5.5, that means that they can lock in an $8,000 scholarship. So with us holding the fees at the same rate from 24 to 25 and having those scholarships, that makes Southern Cross about the most affordable public university out there that you can send your students to, which is where we like to be. So if you have applications for students coming up, there's a couple of deadlines you should be aware of. First of all, for any onshore students, you can apply right up until midday on the 30th of October, and you'll see there on the left, you also need to get the offer issued, you need to accept, and you need to get everything going as quickly as you can. Also, good news for offshore. We did have a cutoff date in the middle of December, but we're getting a very large number of offshore applications coming in for next year. We've decided to extend that deadline until the 3rd of January. So you have until early January to submit your apps. Now, they're the absolute deadlines. We would highly recommend that you apply as early as possible for these courses. We know some of the courses we have are very popular. The earlier you apply, the easier you'll find the process, and also going through visas and everything else will be a lot more streamlined for you. So just note those dates. At this stage, you still have about 7 weeks to apply for students for T5 onshore, and the Grad Dip is still open. So just finally, I'm about to hand over to John Crowder for an update on admissions. But just a reminder, the best thing about our admissions with Southern Cross, if you lodge a complete application, you will get an offer letter back within 1 business day from our admissions team. I think we're the only public university in Australia that can guarantee that type of admissions turnaround time. So please make sure that you submit a complete application. Also on here, you'll notice the website, scuventures.com.au. On there is our online admissions guide. If you follow the guidelines on there, you submit a complete application, then you're very likely for your student to be able to get through the process and get enrolled as quickly as possible. So with that, I will put myself on mute. I'll hand over to Mr. John Crowder. Please continue to put your questions in the chat if you want to ask anything, and we'll get them. We'll get to them at the end. Thanks very much, and over to you, John.
Thank you, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you all again. I will try to get through my part as quickly as possible, so there's plenty of time for questions. As Adam mentioned earlier, obviously the big news in Australia at the moment is caps. He also mentioned that there is a likelihood that Ministerial Direction 107 will be rescinded. 107, for those of you who don't know, is the piece of legislation that says if you're a level 1 institution, your visas will be processed first. If you're level 2, you'll be second. If you're level 3, you'll be third. So it looks like that legislation will be going, putting all universities on a level playing field. However, what has not been confirmed yet is what will be happening with Ministerial Direction 106, which is the genuine student requirement. Our understanding from immigration to this point is that there will be no changes to Ministerial Direction 106, despite caps coming in, and that universities will still be required to assess students under the genuine student requirement. However, we do hope that over the coming months, we may be able to reduce some of the stronger genuine student requirements that we have at the moment. Immigration has advised us that the thing that they are looking at most closely at the moment remains to be finances. So this is why you'll see when you're lodging an application with us, we are placing quite a lot of emphasis on the financial documentation that needs to be provided. And that is specifically based on feedback given by immigration. Over coming weeks, you'll see as well, we'll have some more announcements where we will definitely be loosening the genuine student requirements in some markets. These will be lower risk markets, typically EL1 countries. At this stage, there's no plan to make major changes to level 2 and 3, but we will look at what we can do to make things easier for you. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I want to go over the current genuine student statement that we use for Southern Cross University. One of the things that my admissions team it lets me know regularly is that recently we have seen a decline in the quality of documentation coming through. What this means is a few things. If we don't get the documents we need from you upfront, it delays the process, and we have to go back to you and request further documentation. And sometimes that goes backwards and forwards a few times. Now, as Adam mentioned, we have probably the best turnaround times in the country, and we're very proud of that. You lodge an application with us and you should have an offer within 24 hours if the student meets the academic requirements. If the student is from a level 2 or 3 country, you will receive a provisional offer, letting you know that the student has an offer of a place and inviting them to attend a genuine student interview. That interview is very important, and it is essential that students are prepared for that interview. It is very difficult for a student to just turn up at the interview without having done any preparation and pass that interview. So preparation is really important. We send interview invites directly to the student, and we let you as the agent know the details of that interview. In the student's invite, they receive information about how to prepare for the interview, and we give them a link to our SC United platform, which is a student platform where they can watch training videos specifically to help them understand what we are looking for in that interview. I can tell you that 95% of students who watch that training video will go on and pass their interview. Students who do not watch the training video are very unlikely to pass. So we encourage you strongly to ensure that your students read that email, that they sign up to the SC United platform and they watch the training video and read the material so that they have the best possible chance of passing. Once they pass their interview, they will be issued a conditional offer. The conditional offer will then stipulate the remaining documentation that needs to be provided in order for them to be able to accept their offer. Generally, for most students, that will be completion of the genuine student statement. What we used to call an SOP is now the genuine student statement, accompanied by supporting documentation. Now, I'm going to go through that document with you now. So for those of you who are familiar with our website, it is https://scuventures.com.au. That'll bring you to this homepage. Down the bottom here, you will see the GSR and admissions guide. If you click on that button, it will open this very important tool. And we strongly encourage all of you to use this tool when you are applying to Southern Cross University, Sydney, Melbourne and Perth campuses. All of the information that the admissions team relies on to assess an application can be found in this tool. So all you need to do, if your student is applying from India, you would type in India, hit enter, and you will see on the left-hand side, it will open up this accordion menu. And you can see everything here: the genuine student statement, conditional offers, documentation required, academic requirements, financial requirements, minimum GSR requirements, all of these things that you need to help you be prepared to lodge an application that will get an immediate outcome. What we hope to see is the initial application has all of the academic documents and English if it's available, so we can issue an immediate provisional offer within that 24 hours. Once the interview has been passed, if you can provide us all of the GSR document at one time, together with the genuine student statement, this will make the process a lot easier for admissions. That means it is easier for you. This will reduce the turnaround time and help us make a quick decision so you can accept the offer. Now, with the genuine student statement, If you click on that one there, you will see here we have a link to the GSS template. We strongly encourage you to always come back to this site because the template may change from time to time depending on immigration requirements. The most updated version of that template will always be here. So clicking on that will open the template for you. And I'll go through that in a moment with you. We have some guidelines on how to prepare the genuine student statement. You can click on that as well. And then under that, you'll see these important notes. And I'll go over these quickly with you now. What is really important is that the genuine student statement must be accompanied by supporting documentation, including financial documents, unless specifically advised that supporting documents are not required. So this is always for offshore students. If your applicant is not in Australia, they will always need to provide a genuine student statement with the supporting documentation. Onshore students generally do not require this unless they are applying for a new student visa or something like that. So always provide the genuine student statement accompanied by all supporting documentation, including financial documents. We will not be able to finalise the GSR unless all requested documentation is provided. Now, we often get agents telling us that they're very frustrated because we keep going backwards and forwards. I can assure you that the admissions team is equally as frustrated because they have not received the documents that they have asked for. We've made this easier for you now, and we have included a checklist in the genuine student statement, and I'll go through that with you in a moment. That checklist makes it very clear to you exactly what documents we require. So hopefully this will make your job a lot easier. When you're completing the genuine student statement, we ask that you complete the checklist by ticking the relevant box for all documents provided. Any items in bold print are mandatory and must be provided by all students. If it is not in bold print, you would need to provide that depending on the student's circumstances. And I'll give you examples of that in a moment. One thing we specifically request is please do not provide documents that have not been requested. This will significantly slow down the process. We sometimes have agents who seem to think that the more pieces of paper they provide us, the more likely it is that we will approve the application. And we just get sent hundreds of pages of documents that are completely irrelevant. For example, when you are completing the genuine student statement, please do not attach academic documents or English language documents. We already have that information. That has been provided in the application. It should not be attached to the genuine student statement. This just makes the process more difficult for admissions, and the more difficult it is for admissions, the longer it takes for that to be processed. So please only provide documents that have been requested. As I said, please do not attach academic and English documents. We have them already. All documents should be clearly labelled and attached to the genuine student statement in the order listed on the checklist. Again, this makes identification of those documents easy for admissions so they can give you a speedy response. If you send through 300 pages of documents that aren't labelled and are in random mixed up order, it makes it extremely difficult for admissions to know what they are looking at. So we do require that all supporting documents are labelled and that they are attached to the genuine student statement in order of the checklist. So when you upload the genuine student statement, you will upload all of the supporting documents together with the genuine student statement as one document. There is a financial matrix at the bottom of the genuine student statement, and this must be completed. Again, this helps the admissions team see in a summarized form the finances available to the student. It is important to note that whatever you put on the financial matrix must match up with the documentation that you provide. So I'll go through the GSS template now. So clicking on that link will open the template for you. Sorry about that. I will get that right in a moment. And there we go. And so you will see the genuine student statement basically comes in 4 parts. The first part is a simple yes, no. Have you previously studied in Australia, yes or no? If you answered yes to the above question, did you complete your course, yes or no? If no, explain why not, just very briefly. The top section is very easy to fill in, takes a minute or 2 to do. The second section here relates to the short answer questions. Now, what we've done here is given you a very clear guide to what we are looking for. If you provide the genuine student statement focusing on these points in each question, you can be guaranteed that your genuine student statement will pass. Unfortunately, we find that many are failing to read this information and not responding to some of these points. Whatever points are listed here must be addressed in the statement. For example, in the first question, you'll be asked about your current circumstances or the student's current circumstances. One of the main reasons for visa refusal that we have identified recently is the visa officer has stated that the student failed to demonstrate strong reasons for not studying the course in their home country if that course was available to them there. So for example, they're coming to Australia to study a Bachelor of Business and they're from Nepal. Nepal also has a Bachelor of Business. So what immigration wants to see clearly discussed in this question is why the student does not want to study that Bachelor of Business in Nepal and why they want to study it in Australia. We have clearly marked this here, so it must be addressed. So please do look at this table. It gives you some really good pointers on how to approach the short answer questions. We're not telling you what to say. We're only telling you what you must cover in the statement. Then you get to the short answer questions. Now, those of you who are familiar with applying for student visas will be aware that these questions are exactly the same questions that appear in the visa application for the student visa. So first question, give details of your current circumstances, including ties to family, community, employment, etc. When you are answering this question, as I said, please refer to the table and make sure that you cover at least these 3 points. if you are answering question 2, explain why you wish to study this course in Australia with Southern Cross University, including your clear understanding of the requirements of the intended course and studying and living in Australia. Refer to the table again and look at the points that need to be covered in this section. You can, of course, add more points if you have enough space, but you should cover these as the minimum points. That will make sure that your genuine student statement gets through the first time. Now, as you can see, at the bottom of each of these, it says attach evidence for each claim. You will see in a moment when we go down to the checklist that there will be a check box for each one of these. You will need to tick the box and then label the supporting documentation. So if you are saying, if you're explaining why the student wants to study this course in Australia and not in their home country, you would provide evidence to back up what you have said. This is why immigration has reduced the size of the statement, and they are relying more on the documentation that is provided. So we are the same. We will look to see that you've covered the points, but more importantly, you need to back it up with relevant supporting documentation. So then we get to the checklist. So this is a new section of the form that we have provided to make things as easy as possible. So again, reading the instruction, please tick each document you provide in support of the claims you made above. So that means up here, for each claim, provide supporting documentation. You must also provide all supporting financial documentation and upload it together with the GSS. So that means we need evidence to support the claims made plus the financial evidence. We need this all at the same time so we can finalize the application. All documents should be combined as one single file. Each document must be clearly labeled in line with the document headings below, and I'll explain that in a moment. Documents that are mandatory are clearly marked in bold print. So you can see here, these ones are in bold print and must be provided. Down here under sponsors, everything is in bold print. So all of these must be provided. Some of these under finances you will see are in bold print. If they're in bold print, you must provide them. If they are not in bold print, you only provide them if they are relevant to that student's circumstances. All documents must be in English or accompanied by an official English translation. Please do not send us documents in other languages. We cannot process them unless they are accompanied by an official English translation. So the first section of the checklist refers, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That refers to each of these 5 questions here. So for question 1, you're talking about current circumstances. So you would need to tick this box and attach evidence to back up the claims you made in question 1. Question 2. Why did you choose Australia and Southern Cross University? You'll see this is in bold, so you must provide evidence to back up your documents, your comments. We don't tell you here what documents to provide. We can't tell you what to provide. That depends on the claims you have made. Number 3, evidence of the benefit of this course to your future, including how your proposed course is relevant to your future employment and that it is in demand in your home country. So if you're saying, yes, I'm studying a Bachelor of Information Technology and information technology is in demand in my country, you would upload evidence to support that and tick this box here to show that it is attached. Number 4, this is not mandatory, but we would strongly recommend that if there is other evidence that supports the student's claim, that you tick it and attach it. Evidence of previous study in Australia, that is obviously not mandatory, but only if the student has studied in Australia before, then they must answer this question. The financial checklist is very clear. So we've set out the type of documents that we must have. This is because the financial requirement is currently the most complex one. So we've made it very clear for you, telling you what we need in order to approve the application. So firstly, we look at the student sponsors. We allow a maximum of 2 sponsors. However, we do count mother and father as one. So if the applicant is being sponsored by their mother and their father, we will count that as one, and they can then add another sponsor, such as a grandparent. So we need evidence that the applicant only has 2 sponsors. So we would want to see details of who the sponsors are, maybe a copy of their passport to show this is sponsor 1, this is sponsor 2. We need evidence, so you would tick that box and provide that evidence. Evidence that financial sponsors meet the minimum income requirement. You would need to tick that box and provide evidence of the sponsors' annual income. So this needs to be official evidence, such as a tax return, ITR, or pay slips, or something that shows that the sponsor's combined income meets the minimum income requirement. So tick that and attach that evidence. Affidavit of financial support. So we need to know that the sponsors are checked and verified. So you would tick this and provide the affidavit of financial support. Then we need evidence of the student's relationship to the sponsor. So we are currently limiting the type of sponsors that we can accept based on advice from immigration. This may change in coming months, but at the moment, we will only accept parents, parents-in-law, grandparents, spouse, and in limited circumstances, we will accept aunts and uncles and siblings, but only where there are exceptional circumstances. So for each sponsor, we will need to see evidence of the relationship of that sponsor to the student. So that finishes section 1. You've got all of your sponsors there, you've ticked all those boxes, and you will provide evidence. Now, when you are uploading the document, you should label it according to this. So the first document would be number of sponsors. Anything related to that, you would name number of sponsors. The second one is about minimum income requirement. So you would label that minimum income requirement. Number 3 is affidavit of financial support. Label that document, affidavit of financial support. Number 4 is evidence of relationship. So label it evidence of relationship. That means admissions can clearly see quickly. Yes, this document is here, tick, 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 all done, ready to go. When it comes to finances, There are some things that are required from all applicants. So we do need to see funding sources. So this will be bank statements, education loans, fixed term deposits, whatever it might be. We require that to be provided. So this is mandatory. You would tick that and label the documents funding sources. Secondly, sponsor personal pay slips. So the sponsor must provide evidence of their income. We want to see their personal pay slips. ITR tax assessments. This must be consistent with the stated income. So again, you would tick these and label it as ITR or tax assessment. Now you'll see that these ones are not in bold print. So this isn't mandatory for everyone. It depends on the situation. If the sponsor is providing income from a business, then obviously we need evidence of the business registration papers. So you would tick that and provide the business registration papers. If the student sponsor is not providing business income, then you don't need to provide that, obviously. All students from India, we require a copy of the sponsor's PAN card. So this one applies to Indian applicants only. So we would expect all Indian applicants to tick this and upload a copy of the sponsor's PAN card with that labeled sponsor's PAN card. For Bangladesh students only, we require copies of the bank solvency certificate. Again, Bangladesh only. So if students are from Bangladesh, they would tick that and label it bank solvency certificate, etc. And then you would go on down the list. If the sponsor was providing finances from sale of a property or rental, we would want to see evidence of property ownership. So again, you would tick that and label it evidence of property ownership, and so on. Now, down here, you will see another one in bold. This is sponsor personal bank account showing salary deposits consisted with stated income for minimum 12 months. Sorry, this should say 6 months. I will make sure that that is updated. Personal bank accounts are 6 months. Sponsor business accounts should be 12 months. If there is income from rental, we need to see evidence of the rental, and so on. So all of that is listed out here very clearly for you. You simply tick the box, label the documents, and attach it to the genuine student statement. So what we would see in a completed genuine student statement will be the GSS template up front, followed by evidence of current circumstances, evidence of why they chose Australia, evidence of the benefit of the course to their future, and then each one of these in order. So the admissions team goes through, checks it off against the checklist, and gives you a very quick response. This is much easier for you than the previous form where you were required to list down documents. That wasn't a very useful exercise. The checklist will tell you exactly what we're looking for. Finally is the financial matrix. Again, this is a mandatory section of the genuine student statement. Unfortunately, many agents fail to complete this, and we have to go back to you and say, please fill it in. This gives us an indication of where the funds are coming from. So you would enter in part A here, the amount of scholarship. Now, this will be updated. There will be no $5,000 scholarships after the from next year. So let's say you got a $6,000 scholarship. You would put $6,000 in there. Under B, you would put the funds required for 12 months tuition fee. This will be the tuition fee minus your scholarship. So let's say the tuition fee was $30,000 and you've been given a $6,000 scholarship. That means we're looking at $24,000 here. The funds required for 12 months living expenses, these are put here for you. These are determined by the Department of Home Affairs. So all students, all single students must be able to show evidence of $29,710 per year with $2,200 travel costs. For applicants with partners, they need to provide evidence of an additional $10,394 per year. So if the applicant is married, they would put $10,394 in here. And then at the end of that, you would add up the total and put that in here, the total of all of this, and that will be the annual expenses expected. Then answer the question, do you have siblings studying in Australia or overseas? Yes or no. How many siblings do you have living at home? So 2 siblings, put 2 in there. And the total monthly expenses of your sponsors combined. So if you've got 2 sponsors, what is their combined total monthly expenses? Then you would choose the source of funds. You would put the name of your sponsor, the relationship to you, such as mother, father, whatever it might be, the funding type, so is it education loan, fixed term deposit, personal savings, type in the name of the bank and the amount available in local currency. So if it's an Indian bank account, you would put that in Indian rupees, and so on for the rest of your sponsors. Then you would show the sponsor income, how much for each of these. So ongoing salary, $10,000, business income, $5,000, house rental, $2,000, whatever it might be. That again allows us to check that against the financial documents that you provide. And then you would add the total income for your sponsors here. And that's done. You've completed the genuine student statement. So quite simple. It does involve quite a bit of documentation. Unfortunately, at this time, we can't do anything about that. But as I said, we do hope to be able to reduce that over the coming months, and we will let you know when that happens. But if you can provide the genuine student statement and the documents as I've just outlined for you, we will guarantee that it will get through the process much more quickly and it is likely to be approved upfront. So that is the end of the GSR updates. What I'll do now very quickly is just go through with you a couple of tips on StudyLink, because we have heard that some agents have been unable to see the availabilities. So I'll just show you a couple of tricks if that happens to you. So when you go into the StudyLink partner portal and you are lodging an application, we'll look at applicants. For example, we've got a test case in here. Now, when we go in to create the application, what you will see on the first page, now this might be a little bit different to what you see because this is test data, so everything is here, but you get the idea. What you'll see across the top is the award type, the provider, and any keywords. And then what you see is a list of all Southern Cross University courses. Now, you do not need to go through all of those courses. That will take you a long time. What you would do is go to this section here. Let's say you were looking for the Graduate Diploma of Education Early Childhood. You would come in here and you would choose Graduate Diploma. Provider, you would obviously choose Southern Cross University. And let's say we choose Early Childhood. And then you would click search. Once you've clicked search, you will see that the list of courses has now been refined down to the Graduate Diploma of Early Childhood. Now, you would think that would be easy, and you could easily find what you're looking for here. Unfortunately, we haven't quite got there yet. But I'm going to give you some tips on how to search for what you're looking for and make sure that you can find that. I can guarantee you all of the availabilities are in the system. So if you are looking for the Graduate Diploma of Education Early Childhood in Term 5, 2024, and you can't find it, there is a reason for that. It is in there. I can tell you that it is available. If you can't find it after you've tried, please do, as Adam mentioned, contact your recruitment manager or reach out to me and I'm happy to help as well. But what you would see here is Graduate Diploma of Early Childhood, and then you've got online. Graduate Diploma of Education Early Childhood, Gold Coast. Again, you have Gold Coast and online. You don't want to choose any of those if the student is applying to Sydney, Melbourne or Perth. Even if the student is onshore and is studying online at Sydney, Melbourne or Perth campus, do not choose online. This goes to the main campus. What you would do is choose the Graduate Diploma of Early Childhood, and you've got Sydney, Melbourne here, and then you will see here, this course is only available to temporary non-student visa holders. So if the student is onshore and they are holding a non-student visa, such as a 485 visa, for example, you would choose this availability. Now, if the student was on a student visa, you would not choose this because a student visa holder is not allowed to study online. So you would choose this one, apply to this course in Australia on a student visa. Now let's choose one of those. I'll go into apply. Chose the wrong one, and that shows an example of why. Course not found. So let's look at another one. And here we go. So here you've got a new application created successfully. This is where you would fill in all of this information. And when you get down to the courses and you search for your course, you've got your graduate diploma here. Click on select. And this is where you will see the actual availabilities by campus. Now, I've had some agents contact me and said, I can only see Gold Coast and online there. It's not showing for Melbourne, Sydney or Perth. That is because there is more than one page. So you need to look over in this section down on the bottom right. You will see that this is page 1 of 3. If I click the arrow, it takes me through to the next page where I can now see Melbourne and Perth. Or I can simply choose 30 applications, 30 availabilities per page, and it will list all of the availabilities here. So if you cannot see it, always check the bottom here to see if there are more pages and either expand to the maximum or click through to the next page, and you should be able to see the availability. Again, please do not choose online if the student is applying for Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. Always choose the Sydney, Melbourne and Perth campus. And then if the student is not on a student visa, they will notify us at the time that they're going to study online, and that is fine. So hopefully that gives you some indication of what to do if you're unable to see the availabilities. So thank you for your time, everyone. I'm going to pass back to Adam now, and we'll do our best to answer as many of your questions as possible.
All right, good one. Thank you very much, John. Comprehensive as usual. All right, I'll give you a break for just a moment, and I can answer a couple of the first questions, and then we have a very large number of questions there about mostly admissions and the genuine students requirements. So one question there we had coming through from Natasha was about the scholarships that were available for the graduate diploma. So I've just brought up here the scholarships for 2025 that are available across Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. So for every course except the Graduate Diploma of Education, there's an automatic $8,000 tuition fee reduction on the first year. For the Graduate Diploma, there's an automatic $6,000 fee reduction for the first year. So there are no specific GPA requirements for either of those scholarships. When a new student start, we'll look at their application. If they get an offer, they'll automatically get a scholarship applied to that offer. So you don't need to fill in any extra forms. So grad dip 6,000, every other course 8,000 there. So that was the first question on scholarships. There was another question from Linda. I believe Laura may have answered this in the chat already. The question was about how do the placements work for education in the graduate diploma or the Master of Teaching? So the university organises placements for all of the students. The students do not need to arrange their own placement. There's a very large placement unit within the university. All that the student needs to do is to make sure that they've completed all of the requirements for the placement to go ahead. So some students need to have, for example, a working with children check. They need to fill in some other forms. All of that is summarized on a web page, and when the student enrolls, they'll get all of that information, but they do not need to organize their own placements. Every single student that needs it has their placement organized by the university. All right, good one. Now, John, there's a bunch of admissions related questions here. I'll run through them and we'll see how many we can get through. We are scheduled to finish in 1 minute, but we'll extend it for another 10 minutes or so and see if we can get through some of these. So the first one came from Don. Don's question was, will Southern Cross accept a grad dip plus master's package if a student's 408 visa is expiring during the course?
Yes, we will. That's the short answer. Immigration does not preclude a 408 visa from applying for another student visa onshore. However, in that situation, we will generally require the students to go through a short interview. And they may be required to provide a genuine student statement. That will depend on their country of origin and their risk level, but yes, we do accept them.
Okay, that's a 408 visa. Is there another common type of visa that may not be accepted? For example, is a 485 visa or a different one the same?
Yes, so I'm sure everyone's aware now that students who are on a 485 visa are no longer allowed to apply for another student visa onshore. So if the student is in Australia on a 485 visa and apply for the course, they must be able to complete the course within the duration of that 485 visa, or have another option to apply for another non-student visa after that 485 visa expires. Just for your information as well, in case anyone's asking, we will also accept students on a work and holiday visa who are currently in Australia and are looking at applying for a student visa. Again, like the 408 visa holders, they would be required to go through the genuine student process, but we would still accept their applications.
All right, good one. Thank you, John. There's a bunch of questions in the background, including one from Ida in Istanbul. Can we share the presentation? The answer is yes. We'll be sending out a recording of the presentation and also the PowerPoint to everyone after the meeting. So you'll receive that automatically. There's no need to send through your email address. John, there's a question here about the Master of Computing, and we described before how it's possible for students from other backgrounds to apply. Are there any restrictions on those students applying for a Master of Computing? For example, any specific GPA, any type of bachelor we're looking for? Could you give some more detail on that?
No, so there's no specific requirements there. Unlike the Master of Information Technology, which did require a cognate background, the Master of Computing does not. So technically, a student could have completed a Bachelor of Business, a Bachelor of Accounting, whatever it might be, and say, well, now I want to study a Master of Computing. There are no restrictions to that. The only restrictions would relate to particularly to students from India in high-risk areas, which are Punjab and Haryana. The only difference there is that students from these higher risk areas need to achieve an average of 70% in their bachelor degree overall. Otherwise, in other areas, there's no restrictions.
All right. Thanks, John. Now, Mahin has entered a large number of questions in one question there. So I'll just pick some of them out. Does Southern Cross accept visa refusals from other countries?
Again, short answer is yes, we do. We don't usually reject outright on the basis of a visa refusal, except if that is a very recent visa refusal. So if the student has a visa refusal last month, we would not accept that one. We generally like to see that a student has waited for at least 6 months after the visa refusal before applying. Then we will assess it on its individual merits. So we will look at the reason for the visa refusal. If the student can show that those reasons for refusal no longer exist, we will accept them.
Okay. Thank you, John. Also from Mahin, could you give some guidance on the gap allowance for undergrad and postgrad?
So in general, undergraduate students are allowed a 12-month gap, so 1 year from completion of their 12th grade. And postgraduate students are generally allowed a gap of 5 years. There are a couple of exceptions, but if you look at that tool I showed you earlier, you will see that that will be listed per country in there. So Philippines, for example, has a 7-year gap allowance for postgraduate students. Most other countries have 5. Some high-risk areas, we only allow 3 years, but generally it's 5.
Okay, thank you. And does Southern Cross accept agricultural income as proof of funds?
We will accept agricultural income only where we have official proof. That means that we need an ITR or tax return to show that the funds have been officially assessed by the government. We can't take cash as evidence of funds, so there must be some sort of official proof of that. But we would accept that. I do see another question in there in that one, Adam, just to round that one out. If the spouse wants to accompany an undergraduate student, is it acceptable? We do not accept married couples for undergraduate students. So we only accept married couples where they're a postgraduate applicant.
Okay. Thanks, John. There's a question here from Kencho. For the Master of Teaching, does Southern Cross accept the PTE as well as IELTS?
We do. So for the Master of Teaching, the IELTS requirement is 7 with no band less than 7. So for the we accept the same for the PTE, and I believe that is 65. Just let me check, and I'll confirm that with you. So IELTS 7 with no band less than 7 is PTE 65 with no band less than 65.
Okay, that makes sense. Good news. All right, we have time for a few more questions here. Just, you mentioned Punjab and Haryana there. Priyanka is asking if Southern Cross accepts CBSE students from those regions.
Yes, we do. So, the only difference will be, again, you would see all of this in the online tool. Punjab and Haryana have a higher requirement. So we don't accept Punjab and Haryana state boards. But if a student from Punjab or Haryana is doing the CBSE, they require 80% in those exams.
Okay, all right. This question came in from Nishant, asking if the genuine student form that you went through before, should that be compiled into one PDF with the other documents, or how should that be submitted?
Yes, absolutely. So I made that point a few times. It is absolutely essential that the GTE, the genuine student statement and all supporting documentation is compiled together as one document and uploaded as one document. So again, genuine student statement on top, followed by the supporting documents in the order laid out on that checklist and labeled according to the checklist. That is the way to make sure your application is processed as quickly as possible. If all of the documents are not there, we will have to send it back to you and tell you we can't process until you provide us these documents. So it's really important that you provide all of the documents when you submit. It is not required at the time of application. I did see that question there somewhere before. We do not require the documents at the time of application. We require it after the student has completed and passed their interview, and we will then send you a conditional offer asking for these documents. Okay.
Thanks, John. I think we have time for just 2 more questions. So there's one here from Hashi who'll be asking about Sri Lanka. Is it compulsory to submit tax documents with GTE documents? Is there any general guidance on that?
So could you repeat that one again?
Is it compulsory to submit tax documents with GTE documents?
Look, essentially, yes. And I know this can be a difficult one because we understand that in some countries, I'm sure we would do it here if we could, but people don't like paying tax. And where it's possible not to pay tax, people don't pay tax. From an immigration perspective, they have made it very clear to us that when you are providing evidence of funds, they want evidence that these are official funds, that you can prove that they exist. And so one of the best ways of doing that is through a tax document. That is what immigration has requested. So generally speaking, yes, we would require evidence of tax.
Okay. Thanks, John. And I think probably the final question here. There's a question just asking what documents need to be submitted with the application in order to get that offer letter back within 1 business day. What documents should they submit?
So for the offer letter, if you're talking about the provisional offer, that is the first offer, we need to have a copy of the student's passport, their academic qualifications, and their English proficiency if they've got it. Now, the English isn't absolutely essential at that time. If you don't provide it at that time, we can issue a conditional offer, but it is best if they've got the English, provide that. So passport, academic documents, and passport. If the student has any backlogs, they should also provide a backlog statement at that time. So we would need academic transcripts, completion certificates, backlog statements if there are any, passport, and your English, and that would be enough to get the provisional offer.
Okay. All right, thanks, John. We've gone over there, but we just have one very last question I think we can sneak in. We have Manisha asking, is Southern Cross accepting a double master's profile? So I think that refers to a student coming from a master's wanting to do another master's.
Yes. Now, this is one of those complicated ones. So immigration has made it clear that they expect to see course progression. So that would normally mean going up, bachelor to master's, master's to PhD, something like that. We generally will not reject an application outright. We will have a look at the reasons. If the student can explain clearly and logically why they want to do another master's and how that master's will benefit their future, then we would accept that.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you, John. And thank you everyone for the questions. There's a whole lot there that we didn't quite get to, but just a reminder, we will be sending out the presentation and also a recording in the next 2 days. Just to cover off on some of the points there, Term 5 is still open for onshore students. You can apply right up until the 30th of October, end of next month. Graduate Diploma, there's still places available. Term 1 next year, you can apply up until the 3rd of January. Every student will receive an $8,000 scholarship. Unless they're a grad diploma student, they'll get $6,000. If you get a complete application in, our team will get back to you within 1 business day with a provisional offer letter. So please do submit a complete application. And finally, just remember to refer to our admissions guide, which is online. All the info you need is in there. All right, John, any final words of advice for everyone?
I think that's it, Adam. I've just put the link in there again. So just having a quick glance through all the other questions, I can guarantee you'll find all your answers in that guide. If you don't, feel free to contact me directly. I'm always available to take your questions and happy to do so. I've just put my email address in the chat box. Otherwise, contact your local recruitment manager and they'll be happy to help you as well.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, John. Thanks everyone for attending. Please send through your applications. We need to fill our cap for next year. So thanks for attending. We'll talk to you all soon. Stay safe. Thanks.
Thank you.